Yes. The first official episode of Research Over Mesearch, and I think that it's appropriate with having my first guest be who I have today. There's been a lot of dialogue around the Democratic Party, a lot of dialogue around dark money, a lot of dialogue around who can we trust these days. I would say right now proves that you have to have an analysis that go way far than vote blue, no matter who. Way further than that. Today, the conversation is hoping to be thought provoking and to clear up a lot of the riffraff around Omar Fateh, because I know that there's been a lot of I'm gonna say salacious and facetious memes, tweets, think pieces. Some of them coming in from a good space, most of them not. Before we get into that, though, I want to show y'all my brand new video that I just made myself.
Spontaneous percussion.
Before I bring Omar on, we got 3 clear objectives today. The first thing we're going to be doing is exploring diaspora wars insofar that it goes ADOS, American descendants of slaves, foundational Black Americans, and Black immigrants. The second thing we're going to be doing is defining, or the second thing I'm doing is discussing the establishment Democrats and the way they revoked this man's endorsement. The last thing we'll be talking about is defining democratic socialism and giving a lot of my audience a different way to think about it outside of the convoluted white leftist idea of what it talks about and what this is, because it's actually living it in, man. Without further ado, what's going on, brother?
What's going on? I appreciate you giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you really reaching out and being like, hey, what's up? You know what I'm saying? So, into to be clear, this is a non-paid episode. There was no money exchange, want to be clear, you know what I'm saying? I came to ask some questions and to really kind of have a conversation and discussion, man. And y'all feel free in the comment section to let us know where you're coming in from, and also, feel free to give us some questions. I'm gonna be putting comments from this onto the screen as you see right there. First thing, getting into it though, man. What was your journey? Because you a millennial like me, you born in the same year, 1990. Shout out to you. What was your journey though into getting into this space?
Yeah, thank you so much. And despite what I think people see online, I was actually born in Washington, D.C., born in the DMV, raised in Virginia. And so originally, I think one of the few things that got me organizing was seeing back in my high school days, we had a project with local government around like volunteering on a local campaign. And so in that area, usually in DMV, folks focus more on federal presidential elections. But I got to go on a local county attorney race and saw how racist, how terrible he was. And so that really opened my eyes to a lot of local issues. And after I completed my master's, I got a job offer with the city of Minneapolis elections office. And so with that position, I was a community outreach person in a nonpartisan way, talking to folks about not just local candidates, but maybe some of the things on their ballot, like local initiatives, and learning more from communities from like North Side Minneapolis, South Side Minneapolis, whether it's African immigrant, Latino, ADOS communities, all of the above, and just listening to people. And from that, just organizing, and kind of from there, pivoting to like issues-based organizing around education and substance use disorder and things like that.
Okay.
To a senator.
Okay, and doing these efforts, you only cared about Somali Americans, or you cared about all Black people? You know where I'm going with this.
No, absolutely. I know, caring about everyone, and I see it as having an umbrella where we're all Black. Under that is ADOS, African immigrants, and then maybe people like me that are neither ADOS or African immigrant. And so working towards a goal of caring for communities that have been not only neglected for decades, but for generations, and reversing that generational systemic harm that has been put upon our communities.
Oh yeah, definitely. So when you see some of the dialogue that's going on the internet that I think kind of perpetuates a lot of division, being a person in your position, especially in a community as diverse as Minneapolis, like what do you think is some of the more productive ways to have this conversation in a way that kind of causes that kind of brings us that umbrella for all people of African descent, for all Black people to be able to think about the ways in which our healthcare, the ways in which our labor, the ways in which our housing works.
Well, I'll say that both as an organizer and learning more as a senator representing Southside Minneapolis, is that rather than fighting one another over the crumbs or what little has seemed to be dispersed to communities in the past, fighting for more and demanding more and locking arms and getting the job done. We have a caucus called the Posse Caucus, People of Color, Indigenous Caucus at the Capitol, where Indigenous, Latino, African immigrant, ADOS, elected officials, senators, representatives get together, put together an agenda. But within that, we have sub-caucuses. We have the Indigenous Caucus. We also have the Black Legislative Caucus, which are comprised of both ADOS and African immigrants and second generation like myself, and setting forth that agenda around what it looks like with better wages, better living conditions, access to home ownership, dealing with issues around a public education system, dealing us, especially our students of color, and doing so together, not rather than saying, you worry about your community, I worry about mine, because it is ours. I care about your kids as much as, and you care about mine. And the thing is that our Black legislators, both ADOS and non-ADOS, work really well together. And we've accomplished a hell of a lot together. Sure. Having grants for nonprofit organizations that are doing boots on the ground work, protecting our communities, and also doing things like youth programming and things like that. So we cannot accomplish our goals without each other's help.
Man, and you saying that make you want to get real fast, man. I've been a father for 9 years. And I know you just became a father.
Yes.
What I know is that when it comes to our kids, these distinctions, they always matter.
Yeah.
But they won't make us immune, to the ways that the state will take our water or take our food or take, the way that we're able to come with a living. So for me, having this conversation about the distinctions within Blackness, it's important, I feel like, for our kids. You know what I'm saying? What are ways that you feel like our kids can learn from specifically some of the organizing that's going on in Minneapolis?
I think learning from people before us, like, for example, I was born in DC, but my parents immigrated from Somalia. And my father came here in 1963 on a college scholarship. So he came during the height of the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
And at that time, whether it's officers or people in general, they didn't look at him and say, like, oh, you're Somali, you get a pass, you're not. You know what I mean? Yeah. He was Black. At the same time, it's important for our African American communities to understand those that came before us and those that paved the way through the civil rights struggle for acceptance, but also better living conditions, fighting for better worker protections, fighting for just equality in general. And so understanding that and carrying that with me and learning from folks that I also work with. And as a leader, it's important to connect with community, not just to advance good policy, but to learn from community also, learn from the elders, learn from the Black church pastors, learn from the Black imams at the mosques, you know what I mean? And connecting with folks, especially with folks that have those lived experiences. And you can't shape good policy or provide transformational change without those stories and without carrying that with you as a leader. Because for far too long, we've had either Band-Aid fixes or leaders that have seemed to lost their way and transitioned to the dark side and taking the party or corporate route. And our communities don't have the luxury of waiting for that.
Man, and before I even ask a question, let me just a process what I think I just heard, man. And I feel like, let me talk to the audience real fast. I think what we just heard Omar give was a intersectional analysis about working class Black folks, but also thinking about how that working class framework also applies to other people that's not Black, but specifically in this conversation about like diaspora wars, is really being able to see that working class people, whether you come from the South, the North, Somalia, Nigeria, Ethiopia, recognizing that there is some solidarity or recognize the similarities that we have when it comes to being working class people here in America. You know what I'm saying? I think that's
Exactly.
very, very important. And when y'all hear other people talk about politics, think about how much they use the word working class, working people.
Yes.
They don't do it a lot, y'all. So this is something. This is a clear distinction I want to already make in the at the very jump of this conversation. Think about who he's prioritizing when he's speaking and what that means. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying? Just easing it along though. Easing it along. When it comes to this mass deportation and policing conversation, what do you think is the spillover that happens when we start to celebrate mass deportation towards immigrant communities, and how that spills over to national, I guess, African American communities is what I use.
No, I appreciate that. And to be clear, the folks that are in office at the federal government right now, because it's not just Trump. Trump has the trifecta. He has the House, he has the Senate, he has the Supreme Court that's going to do whatever he wants. And so this is not time to celebrate the downfall of any group. In fact, now more than ever, we got to lock arms and unite together, because today's one community, tomorrow's the next community, tomorrow's going to be you. You know what I mean? And so we know that with Trump in office, there's going to be not just a white supremacist, but a straight up racist mindset towards all communities. And he's not going to benefit folks that look like me and you. And I've seen it firsthand. So I'm currently the chair of the Senate Higher Education Committee. And as chair, I've seen our students, our undocumented students, get picked up in the middle of the night, right, by ICE. And their parents not knowing where they're at, their lawyers not knowing where they're being detained, and university presidents being afraid to step out and do too much because we have a federal government saying, hey, you do anything, you step out of bounds, you protect XYZ, we're going to slash funding. You're going to be on your own, you know? And so we're in a point right now where our communities and our leadership especially are at a point in which we have a situation where we're going to be put in a position where it could be tempting to sacrifice your values to maintain a certain living condition as we have right now, which is not why one of the reasons why I'm running for mayor right now. Right now, more than ever, we need that front line of defense to protect all of the communities. And President Trump and Republican Party straight up just hasn't done anything that has benefited Black people. He's not done anything that has reversed the generations of systemic racism and harm, and is only perpetuating it, if anything.
Man, shout out to everybody in the comment section. Definitely shout out to everybody in the comment section. So when it comes to like Project 2025, and specifically what is happening in Minneapolis, what are some things that you could kind of tell my audience in terms of what is to look forward to, specifically when it comes to this mass deportation policing thing?
Well, our cities can do a lot. We can have sanctuary cities. We can have a separation ordinance like we do have in Minneapolis. But we need leadership that can effectively enforce that. And what I mean by that is that when ICE is in our communities, wreaking havoc, sowing division, causing chaos, it's going to keep happening the next 4 years with this president. But we can make sure that law enforcement, our officers, are not engaging or collaborating with federal agents and just doing their job and focusing on violent crime, which they're supposed to do. And by the way, we're in a situation in which they're saying that they're already being stretched out too thin. So why add that on to their plate when they're supposed to be protecting and serving all communities? We believe that it extends to regardless of your documentation status. And that's something that I hold as a candidate and as a senator as well. We cannot have a city in which we are neglecting any member of our communities. And right now, more than ever, as I said before, I think that it's time for our community to stand up with one another. And we are experiencing that. What we are seeing on social media is not really reflective of what we see in our city, especially within our leadership. More times than not, when there is a hate crime or anything of that nature, we see communities come out and supporting one another. We saw a local mosque get attacked. We saw Black church leaders come up and show out for them as well. And so that's the kind of energy and support that we need.
Yeah, man. And shout out to the chat. I'm bad. DJ Rob. So you're asking, what you want to know is what will he do for the community, and you saying that you've asked him that and he ain't been able to respond. And the first question that I asked him, how did he get into this work? And I think that he gave me a very well explained response about the work that he's done in the community before he even got to this point, all the organizing he's done, and then like what he's doing right now. That was like the part of me talking about like working, talking about how he's emphasizing working families, working class. But we got him right here.
Yeah.
So Omar, we got somebody in the comments section that's shit going off. They want to know specifically, as mayor, like what would you do for the community in Minneapolis? And while you asking this question, can you also point out what your opponent claim they're gonna do for the, you know what I'm saying, mayor in Minneapolis? I know you got an election coming up real soon.
Yeah.
You know? So shit, we came here to try to push you a little bit, and you know what I mean?
Appreciate that. Yes, absolutely, for sure. Yeah, and I apologize if I give you a long-winded answer because there's a lot.
I'm finna put you. I want to. Don't give me a. Hey, listen.
Oh man.
I want to hear what you're gonna say. You feel me?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna have some follow-up questions.
No, for sure, absolutely. So I'll give you a couple parts to that. I'll give you not only what I'm going to do, but what I've done as a senator, right, for our communities. So as a senator, I've been honored to be selected as the chair of the Higher Education Committee, as I stated earlier. And immediately when I got selected, I went to work listening to community, listening especially to our Black students about what are some of the challenges that they're facing. And with that, it became clear that we had to tackle college affordability, that folks felt that our doors were not open to all of our students, and that the ones that were going, they were being saddled with lifelong debt, and they didn't want that. And so what did we do? I got to work and I drafted legislation around tuition-free college for our students, making sure that all of our students can go tuition-free regardless of their income status. And so because of the political headwinds that I was facing and the budget that was given to each committee, we didn't get a high enough budget to make it universal. But I did some studying into looking at what are some of the thresholds, what are some of the income levels of, for example, our Black community, which was like in the mid 30s, right? And then what is the income level like at the median income statewide in general, which was maybe closer to 70,000. So I said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to cap it at $80,000, make sure that all students go to school tuition free for $80,000, or family making 80K or less. But also on top of that, we're going to do things like expand campus hunger grants, because we heard from Black students that campus hunger was a big issue. We heard from student parents and students that are expected to be parents that they wanted childcare support. We heard from students that transportation and housing was an issue, so we provided stipends and grants for that. And because of that, with the North Star Promise, which was what the program was called, as well as the North Star Promise Plus, 46,000 students benefited, a large chunk of which were Black students, right? And so these aren't just band-aid fixes. These are generational, transformational pieces of legislation that will be ongoing in perpetuity forever, so that these students can go to school without having to take out loans for their tuition. And I think that alone is very, very helpful. And that's just one of many examples. Now, I'll go towards what I want to accomplish as mayor. What I've heard from the Black community loud and clear is a few things. Number one, same thing as I heard as a senator, access to home ownership is very important. But for our renters, they want tenant protections. And we need to do that. We have a lot of out-of-state entities that don't give a damn about residents, entities from California, New York, Atlanta, all around, buying up large swaths of property, and not only jacking up the price, but having sub-living conditions for our residents. And we got to make sure that our tenants are protected. We got to make sure that we're increasing the minimum wage to at least $20 an hour, so that folks can pay for food and rent and just the basic necessities. And right now it's closer to 15. And so we've seen wages stagnate for too long. We've seen rents go up for too much, and we've seen that affordability in our city has been neglected by leadership. And so these are all issues that are impacting all of our communities, especially our Black and Brown communities. Now, finally, one thing that has not been talked about enough by candidates now or in the past is that we need an ambitious youth agenda, especially for our youth that look like us. And As a senator, I was honored to pass legislation to invest a couple $1 million in a program called Teen Teamworks, which recruited and hired a lot of young teenagers up to their early 20s when school is out into our parks, and provided them a livable wage, $15, $16, $17 an hour, right?
Right.
And so for those students, I got to connect with them and learn about their experiences. And when I got back to them, I said, "Hey, what you doing? So how did the program go?" And these were Black students, by the way. And so I was expecting them to be like, "Yeah, I bought an iPad, or I bought an iPhone, or I bought a PS5 or whatever," right? But they told me, "No, I was helping mom pay rent this past few months." And so they get that sense of responsibility too. And so this is the kind of leadership I think that our city just is missing right now.
Definitely.
And I know I gave you a long-winded answer. So
You said you're gonna give me a long-winded answer. I definitely appreciate that. I feel like that's, you know what I'm saying, something for the people to pick through if they need to. Like autistic Black woman said, tuition-free college is go back to that comment about tuition-free college. Tuition-free college is huge, especially with that happening in our country. He had the foresight to do that before these trash pandas started to F up all of the financial aid, fuck up all the financial aid. And having this conversation about student loan, financial aid, having access to higher education, it's important that I contextualize the way that Black people, African Americans, have the highest student loan debt and is borrowing more and in even greater difficulty repaying it than the peers. So when you hear Republicans specifically talking about how they don't want to do student loan debt and the direct implications it has for Black and brown students, specifically Black and African American people, it's like, hey, we need to really think about how higher access to education, or how access to higher education really impacts our livelihood, really starts to cut into some of these racial disparities and starts to get into the way we're able to experience some of the upper mobility. I think that is good. You know, somebody that says education is elevation, you know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of people in the comment section. I'm not from Minneapolis. I spent a little time in Minneapolis. Shout out to everybody at Augsburg College. But what the hell is going on the north side of Minneapolis? I see people in the comment section talking about a generational war that's going on, and the specifics of what's going on in North Minneapolis. So my question is, what are the demographics of North Minneapolis? And as mayor, what is your plan for whatever's going on in the north side?
that's a very good question. And so the demographics of North Side is predominantly Black, African American, and a community that's been largely neglected again for decades and generations, including this current mayor. And so a couple of things that we hear loud and clear from folks up north is that they care about two things: real meaningful public safety reform and making the city more affordable. And so to the first part, since the murder of George Floyd occurred 5 years ago, there has not been any real meaningful police reform that has been done in Minneapolis. And so we learned a lot these last 5 years while the mayor has been neglecting our communities. We learned that, number one, we don't need an armed officer for every single response, right? Especially in a time when officers are saying they're being stretched out thin and they can't respond to every single phone call. Which also, by the way, matches what I've heard as a senator at the Capitol. We had law enforcement coming saying, we can't respond to every call. We're not mental health workers. We can't deal with these mental health phone calls, right? And so what does that tell us? That tells us that we need to beef up our alternatives to policing. We need to beef up our violence prevention efforts with these organizations that are Black and brown and boots on the ground also. And so we got a city report that showed that nearly half of 911 calls can be diverted away from MPD. And yes, there's a comment saying that Mayor Fry lied about banning no-knock warrants, and that's true. And that led to the murder of Amir Locke shortly after. And when he got caught, he said, I was just speaking casually. And so casual language leads to what? Death, as we've seen with Amir Locke. And so we need a system in which you get the right call at the right time. And too many times when folks, especially up north, are calling 911, either calls are getting dropped and not being answered, or the police take a hell of a long time to come, or they don't come at all. And that all three have to be addressed. Now, in terms of, and by the way, the last part, there has to be real, meaningful police accountability. And that's just not happening. In fact, there's police officers with 20, 30, 40 complaints on their records. And rather than getting disciplined, they get promoted, they get elevated, they go on to train other officers and train that bad behavior. And we think that's wrong, and that should be dealt with also. But there's just this toxic culture in which the mayor and his administration has sown division among communities, especially within the Black community, elders and young people, and folks that care about real meaningful police reform. That if you care about police accountability, then you're anti-public safety. And we know that's not true at all, right?
Oh boy, damn.
That's where we're at right now.
Man, I think that this is a part of the conversation that's real appropriate to go on and get into. I think the establishment Democrats, and the reason why I think this is a part of the conversation that's important is because from 2020 shit to 2023, we've seen a lot of individuals in the Democratic Party be able to elevate themselves under the guise of being critical amongst the police, specifically when it came to answering the Black community's question about police accountability.
Yes.
At the same time, we've seen funding go up in policing.
Yep.
We've seen the deaths of Black people go up exponentially. We've seen that the amount of Black people that has been murdered by the police have gone up since George Floyd. Yep. And we know that as a result, a lot of Black folks have lost a lot of hope into the establishment Democrats. Before we even get into what they did to you, what is something that you would say in terms that distinguishes what you're trying to do and what is going on with the establishment Democrats?
Two things. Number one, was that?
If that question made sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I'll say a few things. Number one, I think that we got to be upfront and honest about the challenges we're facing and not sowing division and fear, because the status quo relies on that division, relies on people voting their fears to maintain their own power and to get reelected into office. And what do I mean by that? There was an old saying, it might have been from Lyndon Johnson, but don't quote me, but the saying that if you can't convince them, confuse them. And so that's what we've been seeing a lot within Minneapolis, because I've heard as a candidate and as a senator, time and time again, community members asking, why are we defunding the police? Like, we need to support public safety. We've got to XYZ. And the reality is the last 5 years, police funding has only gone up each and every year to a new historic level. But as a result of that, we still have seen a lack of police accountability and a lack of real meaningful police reform and people feeling safe within our community, especially people that look like you and me. And so our establishment Democrats are so afraid, I think, of the right wing and Republicans that sometimes they tend to, when it comes to policing, be like Republican light and say, no, we're pro-Republican. I mean, we're pro-police. We're not defund. We're not abolished. That's just a crazy left fringe of the Democratic Party. And so my whole thing is two things. Number one, no matter as what I've been hearing from people, whether they're staunchly pro-police, whether they're believe in police reform, whether they want to defund or abolish, no matter where they fall on the spectrum, here in Minneapolis, they're unhappy with the situation right now. Nobody's happy. And everyone right now is concerned. And so what we need right now more than ever is a mayor that's honest and upfront and transparent with the community, not dividing folks that we've seen right now. And to be blunt with you, that division has come by providing some city contracts to some folks to provide that cover, saying that Black leader, that Native leader, that Somali leader, that Latino leader sides with me, therefore the entire community is with me. And in reality, there's just a few people that are assigned as gatekeepers, if that makes sense. And so that's the kind of stuff that we need to stop within the city.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to your autistic Black woman chronicles. So in this, a lot of us have been wondering and wanted to hear from you. Why do you think your endorsement was revoked? And then when you're answering this question, can you fill in some context for my audience that might not know what I'm talking about?
Yes. So here in Minneapolis and in Minnesota, we didn't have a primary process for our local election. Our primary process is comprised of a caucus and a convention. A caucus is citywide. There are different precincts in different wards. Within every ward, there are several precincts. Within every precinct, there are caucuses which neighbors come out and support a candidate in which they're very energized and excited about, and they select delegates that night. And the proportionality of your delegate support within every precinct, every neighborhood, within every ward determines how many delegates you get that night towards the convention. And so that night we walked away with the most delegates by far. And what we saw was that there's a lot of enthusiasm. Thousands of people came out to caucus that night and to go onto the convention that were selected. Now, that process took a hell of a lot of volunteer work, people sacrificing time, not just from campaigns, but DFL like volunteers saying, I care about this process. We want to make sure that this is successful. We went to the convention and we had a process in which delegates were voting on races from the mayor's race, park board, and resolutions that day also. And so in the mayor's race, we had myself come out first on the first ballot, 43%, and the mayor failed to get even a third. I think he got 31%. And so the threshold is 60% to get endorsed. It's not a plurality, it's a majority of 60%. And so on that first ballot, we got the most. Now, each campaign is able to have a person engage with the tellers and engage with the parliamentarians to make sure the process is smooth. And every step of the way, the candidates and the campaigns are being kept up to date about what's happening. Because of a whole host of issues, there was a systemic error around the counting on the first ballots. The threshold is 20% for the first ballot, the drop off. And if you don't make 20%, you're dropped off, right?
All right.
And so we got above that. But one of the volunteers that was doing the counting had a medical emergency, largely because of the stress she was facing. She had a stroke. And number two, the system got overwhelmed. So everyone was being told about what happened, about close to, say, maybe 100 out of the 1,600 or so, don't quote me, delegates that were there. Over 100 ballots were not accounted for. Now, that's a very valid concern to have, right? No matter which campaign you're on, and that's a very valid concern to have. The problem with that is that every single campaign was kept up to date about what's happening. The delegation was kept up to date about what's happening and had the opportunity to redo the vote a second time. Because the mayor and his team were purposely kept standing up, having resolutions, having motions, their tactic was delay, because they knew they didn't have more than 31% of the delegation. Their interest was delay until the convention shuts down at 10 p.m., right? And so when they were failing at their delay tactics, they walked out. They thought that they had enough votes to walk out, and because they wanted to break quorum and prevent the convention from proceeding. They weren't able to do the math correctly, and obviously the quorum was still there. The delegation voted instead of having redo the voting to continue on to the second ballot. That was a delegation decision, and it was not just the parliamentarians or a campaign making that decision. And so they raised their badges and they voted, and overwhelmingly, well over 60% voted to endorse me as that candidate. Now, they also voted right after that to endorse park board candidates and then resolutions. But when the DFL decided to revoke our endorsement, they kept everything else that day, which went through the same exact process, but only revoked our endorsement. And that happened because we're going up against the establishment, we're going up against the status quo that wants to protect their interests. We're going up against big money. There was a video about one of the PACs that are supporting the mayor from a longtime city council member who retired, saying that we have several checks from wealthy donors that we cannot cash or we have to withhold unless Omar is not endorsed. And so we know a lot of the behind the scenes conversations that were happening, that were the tactics. And I've been telling folks that they can take away the party's endorsement, but they can't take away the people's endorsement. And the people are still largely with us. That just last week we had a door knock with over 250 people energized, knocking the doors, knocking over 10,000 doors, and we've seen continuing momentum. And so thankfully, the revocation has seemed to backfire on the party and only energize people to get involved more and see what games that the establishment is really, really capable of.
Man, zooming out on some real shit.
Yeah.
Asking you personally, what message do you think that it sends out to the general public when the party Democrats don't want to respect what the people have chosen when it comes to what's happening with you in Minneapolis and what's happening with Zoran in New York? What message do you think that sends out to the people? Like, what you think?
It sends to me that A, they don't care, but number two, that they're expecting your vote regardless of their actions because they're banking on you being so afraid of the other side of the Republican Party. And for far too long, our party has been running on a platform of why the other side is bad. And instead of running on a platform to get you to vote for them, they're having you want to vote against something else. And people don't want to vote against something, they want to vote for something. And
Yeah.
so that's why we saw the populist message work with Zoran in New York. He overwhelmingly won his primary on the message of affordability and making the lives better for people. Now, funny enough, it's the same message that Trump also ran on the populist message in 2024, talking about affordability. Now, was he lying? Of course he was lying, right? 100%. But he knew that he needed to speak to that, again, working class needs. And he was willing to lie, at least have people hear him, pretend that he's hearing out the people. And so that's why we're seeing such a hard swing to the right and back to the left, because people don't see it as that kind of an issue. They see it as an issue for everyday people, tackling affordability. How are you making their lives better? What are you going to do for our seniors and our young people? What are you going to do to make prices go down? What are you going to do to make rents stabilize, and all of the above? And for far too long, our party has been beholden to corporations and wealthy donors and not the everyday person.
With that, hold on, I see somebody in the comment section that was asking me what was I reading from. I was reading to the person that asked that. I was reading specifically from equityandhighered.com, and highered.org. It's entitled "Student Debt: The Unique Circumstances of African American Students." You can subscribe to my Substack, where I'll be giving out a weekly newsletter, and I'll put all of the sources of things that I've read in that newsletter. Shout out to whoever asked that question. With that being said, though, bro, what the hell is democratic socialism? Like, what is it? What is it like? And too, like, I'm from Texas.
Yes.
Born and raised in Texas. You feel me?
Mm.
If I was trying to explain it to my uncle or my grandma, how would you explain it? Democratic socialism.
I would say it's caring for every single person, making sure that the basic needs of the people are met, that people are given the basics, clean air, clean water, quality education, healthcare. Not talking about access to all the above, but making sure that people actually get it. And so one of the reasons why I've been a DSA member for the past 7-8 years now. And so
when you say DSA, that's Democratic Socialist.
Democratic Socialists of America, correct, yes. And so one of the things that bothered me was I'm one of the folks that follow the Martin Luther King and also Bernie Sanders wing of progressivism. But the term progressive for me seemed to have shifted from having a meaning to like a spectrum, right? And what I mean by that is that we have Democrats that are claiming to be progressive, but they don't believe in healthcare for all, for example. Or you can be progressive and you can take big oil money, or you can be progressive and you can take money from big corporations and developers and not stand for workers or renters, and on and on and on. And so the term progressive became way too loose. And so I believe that you should either have a firm belief in these basics for people or not. Do you believe in a good quality of life for people, or you don't? And as complicated as issues may seem, it really boils down to black and white. You want people to have healthcare or not? Housing, education, clean air, clean water, all of the above. And so for us, my campaign, we've been telling neighbors, what's so scary about having that for people? What's so scary about having livable wages?
Let me ask then. So, you know, when a lot of people hear the word socialism, it automatically brings fear. They you know what I'm saying? They automatically feel provoked in a way where they automatically go to pathological things. How do you address the fear around the word socialism when we talk about, you know what I'm saying, democratic socialism, and specifically what you're doing in Minneapolis?
Absolutely. And when folks try to speak towards that fear, whether it's conservative Democrats or right wingers, what they really mean is that we're too close to renters, we're too close to immigrants, we're too close to working people, we're too close to transit riders, we're too close to our Black neighbors in North Side and our Indigenous neighbors in South Side, and on and on and on.
Yeah.
And so that's their fear of the collective. I know you earlier were talking about the different interests among the different demographics, but what they really fear is all of us getting together as a collective, fighting around that working class struggle, and dismantling that system of that's been benefiting the wealthy few for far too long, and not doing enough for the everyday person.
Yeah. So just as a follow-up question,
Yeah.
what would be some distinctions that you would say is between establishment Democrats and like socialist Democrats? Like what are some distinguishments?
That's a very good question. So I'll say a couple of things. Just take our current mayor, for example, right now. There's a big difference between words and actions. In 2017, when he first ran for office, for example, he ran saying he's going to eliminate homelessness in 5 years. I love that. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah, go and get in there too. I'm about to ask you a question about that. Going on in. And when you're making these distinctions, I think that right there is something to contextualize up in there.
Yeah, exactly. And so he campaigned in 2017 saying he'll eliminate homelessness in 5 years. Right now, we have more homeless people than before. He campaigned saying he'll protect our workers. But when it came to fighting for Uber and Lyft drivers, he caved to Uber and Lyft. When it came to the Labor Standards Board to provide protections for our workers, he caved. When it came to the raids that occurred in South Minneapolis with ICE, he didn't keep the community up to date. He left council members out in the dark, and MPD was seen at the site with ICE. And so, to that point specifically, we need our investments to have real impact and meaningful impact on people that are struggling the most. And we shouldn't be focusing on things like, I know there's conversations around stadium subsidies, right? Like the Viking Stadium, for example. And so these billionaire owners are going to be okay. They're going to be just fine. They don't need our city or state subsidies. We need to make these investments in our communities to ensure that our youth are taken care of, our communities are taken care of, and to make sure that we're actually tackling affordability. And yes, not having socialism for the corporations or the wealthy.
Yeah, and something that's very important. People that's watching and listening right now, the folks that say socialism is bad, they only mean that for the people that's eating sleep for dinner and that's trying to decide whether paying the light bill and feeding themselves. They don't think socialism is bad when it comes to using all of the state funds to be able to bail out corporations, to be able to get them subsidies, to allow for them to choose between buying a jet or a yacht. They have no issues with socialism then. So for me, when I start hearing distinguishments between what establishment Democrats is doing and, you know what I'm saying, social Democrats, is really thinking about how do you prioritize and value the people. And don't get me wrong, I got a lot of skepticism for all Democrats, you know what I'm saying? But I do see I do see some delineations between what you doing and what Frey doing and what other, you know what I'm saying, Democrats are doing, you know what I'm saying? And even that, do you identify as a Democrat, or is it like you make some like yeah, I leave it there. Do you identify as a Democrat?
I caucus especially as a senator, yes, to the DFL party, but I am a DSAer also. In fact, there's a Democratic Socialist Caucus within the DFL party, trying to bring
farmers, labor, yeah.
So
Educators, man, educators.
Yeah, so the state has a party, Democratic Farmer Labor Party. It is our version of the Democratic Party, but to your point, it is important to establish a difference between the status quo and what they fight for and what we fight for. And the stadium example is a very good point to that. While one side wants to fight for the billionaires that own the stadiums and run the stadiums and own the teams, right? Another side want to protect the workers at the stadium, making sure that they're getting a livable wage and they can afford rent. Fighting for the hospitality workers downtown, so that when people want to go out to eat or stay in the hotels, keeping our city functioning and moving. The hospitality workers that help the people that are enjoying our venues and enjoying our stadiums. they're the ones we got to protect. They're the ones that are keeping our city thriving and keeping our city healthy. It's not just about, it's not about what these stadiums bring to our city. It's also about what are the workers, how are they benefiting us, and how can we make sure that they're valued and that they're given the dignity they deserve.
Definitely, definitely. And when you was talking earlier, you said something about Uber and Lyft and drivers.
Yes.
We talking about distinctions. And in my mind, the established Democrats would be more likely to take some money from Lyft and Uber to make sure we fuck over workers. Whereas you co-signed, you trailblazed, spearheaded some policy around work and around pay when it comes to Lyft and Uber. Can you educate or can you inform my audience on what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so
Yeah, you did something. I definitely read that for sure.
yeah, for sure. So just a little bit of a backstory. In 2022, during an election year, I got a call from some of the Uber drivers that they wanted to speak to us, me and a few other legislators, around some of the challenges they're facing around deactivations, but also their wages decreasing year after year, right? And so in those conversations, I was expecting a like a roundtable discussion. But when I got there, we had over 400 drivers show up to talk to us, which was huge, right? And so they talked to us about some of the struggles that they're facing statewide. We had drivers come from all parts of Minnesota. And so we're very upfront with them saying, we're here for you, we're going to fight for you. But to do so, we need the trifecta, the House, Senate, and the governorship, because if the Republicans are in charge of any one of those, it's not going to happen. So they got to work. They started organizing and driving folks to the polls and making sure that they're door knocking and putting in a lot of effort, especially like in rural Minnesota, the 7-county metro. And what happened? They played a part in, they're not the only reason, but they played a part in our state getting the trifecta, where the House, Senate, and governor were Democratic. And so they got to work and helped form legislation around creating a livable wages, but also rideshare protections, insurance, and deactivation preventions for our riders. And because of their hard work, we passed some of the strongest rideshare protections bill in the nation. And that happened because their drivers came out with community and standing up towards these billion-dollar corporations who had all the money in the world, all the influence, all the lobbyists showing up. We had these corporate lobbyists also donating to folks to keep them within their reach. And so they did every tactic in the book that they possibly could. But in the end, it did take 2 years. The first year it got vetoed in the House, by the governor and the mayor. But the second year we were able to get it done. And yes, I saw one of the comments showing that Uber and Lyft were threatening to leave. And we knew that was BS, because even with these wage increases and protections, they would still make a ridiculous amount of money.
Definitely.
And they're not going to leave that money on the table. And we knew that was BS.
Man. And speaking of lobbying, I got 2 questions real fast. The first one, will you be taking APAC money?
No.
Okay, you gotta ask, man. You gotta anytime I've learned. Hey, yeah, you gotta just ask. You gotta ask. You feel me? Second question. So I read the Minnesota DFL chair was a paid consultant for your opponent. Why you don't think that person, you know what I'm saying, recused themselves from the decision, removing your endorsement? Like why they, the conflict of interest to me seems there. So there's like, what's your opinion on it?
Well, and not just that, there was multiple members on the Constitution, Bylaws, and Rules Committee that made up of 28 people at statewide that revoked the endorsement. There were multiple people that were Jacob Fry supporters that supported his campaign publicly. There was one person also that was supported his campaign, but also challenged the convention, submitted challenges, and then quickly removed those challenges when she learned that she'd have to recuse herself. And so there's a lot of folks that should have been recusing themselves, but that just goes with the games and the backroom deals within the party that is expected when the status quo is looking to protect their interests. And we know that, but I want to distinguish the city versus the state. The city DFL very much so respected the process, supported us, and wanted to make sure that the endorsement was upheld, because outside of the candidates that took part of this process, the caucus and convention, there were a lot of volunteers for the DFL in our neighborhoods that made sure that the caucus and convention were successful. It took a lot of hours, a lot of meetings, a lot of sacrifice away from family to make it happen, and we just disrespected their efforts.
Man, and what's like some differences and similarities between what you going through in Minneapolis and what Zoran going through in New York? I know there's two different communities. I know that y'all got different, identities as well. I know that y'all have some differences as well in ideology and in approach. But I think that a lot of us in this country is paying attention specifically to what's going on in these two cities because we feel like establishing Democrats always fucking the money up. Just I ain't got no better way to say it. Just fucking the money up. So similarities, differences, I think that we all trying to formulate us a nice analysis. So I'm asking you that question in hopes that how you respond is going to be able to make it where we still have more forwarded conversations about, Fateh, Mandami.
No, for sure. And New York and Minneapolis, yes, they do have unique, separate issues. But at the same time, there are issues that are nationwide that voters across the spectrum care about. And the number one thing is, of course, affordability, making lives more affordable for people. And what I hear from folks is that they want to raise the minimum wage. So we're campaigning on increasing the minimum wage to $20 an hour. Folks need to be able to stay in their home and not have landlords jack up their rents year after year. So we do support a strong rent stabilization policy. We got to make sure that we're being more strategic in our public safety efforts and having real meaningful police reform, especially being the city in which George Floyd was murdered. And we had all eyes on us nationwide and also globally. And nothing has been done as of to date, meaningful reform. And so there's a whole host of issues that we have similar with not just Mamdani, but with progressives across the country that are running for office. And the Democratic Party needs to respect the will of the people. They need to be more willing to engage and listen and not be beholden to the mega donors, the wealthy corporations. Instead of having meetings with lobbyists and consultants and figuring out what language to use when engaging with constituents or what's going to play on social media and all that, just talk to people, go to the community, listen. Go to the churches, go to the mosques, go to the synagogues, go to the neighborhoods, talk to people, learn from them, talk to the boots on the ground organizations. You don't need to be paying all this like ungodly amount of money to consultants and folks to just learn about what you think will win you an election. When in reality, what wins elections is authenticity.
Yeah. Agreed. And in the name of authenticity, if and when you win, you got to come back. Because I know that my people in Minneapolis is going to have some questions about your leadership and specifically what they feel like you've been able to follow through in promises and what they feel like you haven't been able to. And I think that it would be very, fair, to come back and let me put your feet to the fire a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. Right now, I think that we have a goal. This Frey person, I don't like him. I don't think I like him. So shit, we gonna see what we can do, man. We gonna see what we can do. I'm curious though, because a lot of us are talking about 2026 and 2028. What do you think the party in 2028 can learn from what you're doing in Minneapolis? What you want to do in Minneapolis? Because I feel like it's always a learning lesson. There's always a learning lesson. There's always ways for me to point out how the Democratic Party coming up short right now. And I can see the uniquenesses in terms of what you giving and what they giving and what you don't want to do and what they don't want to do. Distinctions. So in 2028, how can, I guess right now they're saying Gavin Newsom, how can Gavin Newsom learn from Omar Fateh?
And that's a good question. And so I would say that the party in general needs to move more into a direction of a populist message and listening to people and tackling the issues that the everyday person cares about. How are you going to make a material difference in their lives, not just using sound bites or talking points, but real meaningful policy changes that will better their lives. And I think in 2026 and 2028 and beyond, the Democratic Party needs to do a better job of doing that, not pushing out progressive candidates also that they think are too left or radical or especially in a time when we say vote blue no matter who, or that we are big tent. At times, it does not feel that way,
Yeah,
and and voters can see through that, right? And they know that if Democrats want to pivot towards the middle for voters on the right side, that we know some MAGA folks that would never ever vote for us anyway, speak towards the needs of people. And that's the winning message. Speak towards affordability, speak towards how we can increase opportunities for education, how we can increase opportunities for clean air and clean water for all of our neighborhoods, because we know our black and brown neighborhoods are the number one areas that get polluted, and that we have the highest rates of things like asthma and cancer and heart disease, for example. And yes, I see the comment saying the tent legs to expand to the right. It feels like that sometimes. It definitely is true. And so, what we learned on last election, especially, is that when Democrats campaign as Republican light, that people say we might as well go for the real thing. We're not going to support you.
yeah.
And so, we need candidates that will support people and not wealthy donors or special interests. We need to weed out the special interests. We got to stop taking corporate dollars. We got to stop being beholden to corporations and all these wealthy consultants that really don't know a damn about the working people's struggles.
Man, and you know what, bro? Millennial to millennial, what I think is that a lot of the older Democrats, they want to really stay married to the status quo, and we want to challenge it in ways that challenges their identity that they've cultivated within the status quo, as well as the position they've got into. And because we want to destabilize it and change it, they feel like they're going to lose themselves, or they're going to lose the power and privilege they've gained within their status quo. So for me, I always keep thinking about how the Republican Party, they listening to their young people. They got young people over there doing a whole bunch. Democratic Party want to almost be like some old ass uncles, grandpas that don't want to get like, you're not shitting them up. Get off the pot.
Yes, and the thing is, like, yeah, you're absolutely correct. And like, look at the leadership just in Congress, a bunch of 80-year-olds, 80-plus-year-olds, right? And folks would rather die in office than provide the new generation opportunities at leadership. And it seems a lot of times also they'd rather sacrifice elections than cede any power to the progressive left. And so that's what we're dealing with right now. But what we're also seeing is that there's a whole lot of people that are not just willing to stand the sidelines, that are organizing. We saw it in New York City, we're seeing it in other cities, and that are going to tackle not just the right, but the corporate wing of the party to make sure that we are a party that stands for everyone.
Yeah. And with that being said, I'll be coming to a closing, but I want to say something to the people that I was having a conversation in DC with some people that's Democrats. They asked me the question, why do the people shit on us so much on the internet, especially seeing what the Republicans are doing? And I think what you just hit on is literally that. It's like when we can indict and see that there is some similarities between the allegiance to corporations or the allegiance to profits over people, it make people become a little worried. They become a little bit of pessimistic. They start to lose hope inside of the party. So I asked Jasmine Crockett this. I want to ask you this, you know what I'm saying, as we come to the end. You feel me? A lot of people are losing faith in the Democratic Party. A lot of my audience is losing faith in the Democratic Party. What do you say to those people that's losing hope in the party, specifically as we're staring down the barrel of fascism? And to be clear, I'm not asking you to defend the party. I'm not asking you to defend the party at all. You feel me? I ain't gonna go where I'm gonna say, but how would you respond, man?
I'll say organizing, because at times it feels like if our leaders and the establishment put the same amount of energy into fighting fascism, fighting the right wing, as they do the progressive left, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in right now. And that's
hold on, repeat that. Repeat it.
No, I was saying if the establishment and our leaders put the same energy that they put into fighting the progressive left, that they put that energy into fighting fascism and the right wing, we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in right now. And that's the truth. And so we need to organize from the inside. We got to organize locally, city, county, state, federal. Get involved. Start door knocking, supporting candidates you believe in. But also we need a lot more people, especially like millennials, Gen Zers, to stand up and run for office too, run locally,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
join community organizations, join the boots on the ground organizations, get involved. Because I know as disheartening and as challenging as things might seem at times, I feel like we're also slowly turning the corner, and we've seen that with Mamdani in New York. We've seen that with other elections, and we're building a movement towards something that's greater and better. But we can't take our foot off the pedal. We got to keep working and organizing. It's not going to be easy. The fight for justice and progress is never easy. It's always going to be a battle, but it's a lot harder when people sit on the sidelines.
Yeah, you know, my mama, it's on my heart, so I'm gonna say it. I know a lot of Democrats watch my page. Listen, man, the reason why I particularly have beef with y'all, not to you, but where I have beef with the establishment, is that if it is true that fascism is half as bad as what y'all saying it is, I believe all the grease y'all have should be going to frying the fish of fascism and not denying the fish of Fateh, or, you know what I'm saying, Mandami. Like, if you have that much energy to organize, to take away endorsements, to not want to give endorsements, then I think that you either lying about fascism being as bad as it is, or you don't tripping at how bad it is. You care more about being able to oppose people that threaten your position on the side of the aisle that you on. This is what I say, man. It really pissed me off a lot of times that I feel like the Democrats look at this this fake moderate white voter that is going to change their mind and start to vote here. And I think that when they do that, it canonizes a lot of people of color that's on the left that don't vote. And they probably would if you had a message for them instead of going and sacrificing, going to the middle. I started thinking of that little what we call it, that Overton window about what's acceptable, but also to me, I know man, what's acceptable to me, also what is applicable. And it's just like, hey, once you start to go and stay moderate and the right is going more right, and you trying to stay moderate and the right going more right, my head ain't in the screen no more. Now you're right.
Yep. Absolutely, and we've seen it within our own party here. And again, the amount of distrust and the amount of unease that are felt, especially by young people of color within the party, is rightfully so, because they really feel like we have a Republican Party and then we have a second Republican Party. And what I mean by that is, within our own experience within the DFL here in Minnesota, we had, for example, a Senate Majority Leader that was a Democrat. Years later, going on to caucus with Republicans. We had a Minneapolis DFL leader that went on years later to donate to Republicans and support the Republican Party, right? And so that shows you where their heart really was in the past. They weren't really fighting for working people. They were thinking, well, how do I maintain my power? How do I get into power and keep it? Rather than how do we provide for communities, provide the resources they need to thrive and survive, and keep that. But again, the best way to fight back and push back is organizing. There's no way around it. We need more people to get involved in the campaigns. We need people to run for office. As discouraging as it is, being on the sidelines is also not the answer.
Man, I agree wholeheartedly. Man. I want to really thank you for being my first guest of my official live stream show. And I'm calling Research Over Mesearch, man. For people that's watching, if you're looking to get any more information about the things we've talked about, may it be DFL, may it be Democratic Social, DSA, may it be some of the specifics that's going on in Minneapolis, or even what is on this campaign, subscribe to the Substack. I'll be having a weekly newsletter tomorrow. That newsletter will be coming out. That's going to be covering a lot of the big picture ideas we got in here. Also, can you have your team send me a link as well for your campaign and what you're doing, so I can also have that inside of the Substack newsletter.
Absolutely.
I was here. Shit. In closing, though, fam. In closing, father to father. You know, we know that the archive is going to be here, man. The archive is going to be here. Your child is they you feel me? It's a boy, right? It's a
boy. Yep.
Yeah, your son is very young, man. So right now, your son was just born. in 10 to 15 years, he'll be able to go through the archive and see what you was doing when you was doing it, when they was, you know what I'm saying, when he was what he was. What do you want to tell your son, bro, right now, you feel me, that's going to be relevant to everything we talked about in like 10 to 15 years? Because I think about it all the time. I do this. My daughter 9, my son 7, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes I say little things and make videos to them. Like, shit, you're gonna see this. So I was just curious, man, just getting a little vulnerable, a little sentimental real fast. What do you tell your son, you feel me? Or what do you want your son to know about what's going on 10 years from now?
Well, the things that I try to advance and I strive for as a senator that I would like my son to know in the future would be that these are not band-aid fixes, but ideas and legislation and policy that is generational. Things like tuition-free college that's going to be ongoing so that generations to come, including my son's generation, could benefit. The rideshare drivers getting better wages and protections that's going to be ongoing. Providing support for working class people that is ongoing, and also just him knowing, regardless of what issues we're looking at or talking about, which side of history I was on. Was I on the right side or the wrong side? Did I stand up for the people or did I stand up for the corporate interests or wealthy interests? And so my hope is that I made him proud and that I've done enough good to make a difference in not only his life, but the lives of those of his generation.
Yeah, man. I thank you. Appreciate you. I'll be in touch. Stay in the back. Don't go nowhere yet. Don't go nowhere yet. No, don't go nowhere yet, man. But shout out to y'all that's tuned in. Today we had as many as 830 people that was in the live stream. We're streaming right now on Substack, on X, on Facebook, on Twitch, and on YouTube, man. So shout out to everybody that came and supported. Definitely subscribe to that Substack channel, the Consciously Research Over Mesearch, to get more information, and also to have more conversations about this and with like-minded people. Every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Central, man, y'all tap in with me. Education is elevation. I will be debating, I'll be teaching, I'll be conversating. If anybody ever want to get their ass intellectually wiped with the flow, let me know.
Spontaneous percussion.